Hey everyone, it's Whitney with Wandering Whittles. Welcome back to my channel. Before I get started, I just want to say welcome to all of my new subscribers. I've noticed that since I've been away for a little while, that I've added a little bit to my subscriber count. So welcome to the family, everyone. About a year ago, I actually uploaded a Sansevieria tour collection to my channel. I'll link it up here if you'd like to watch it. But since then, I have added so many more Sansevierias to my collection. Since I have so many Sansevierias, I wanted to kind of keep track. I don't really know how many I have, so in this video, we're gonna have a little bit of a tracker going. On one side, we're gonna do how many Sansevieria plants do I actually have, and on the other, I'm gonna do the varieties. This should be interesting. So to get started, I'm actually gonna go from smallest to largest. I'm gonna try not to ramble too much. However, when I talk about Sansevierias, you guys know I ramble a little bit. I love them, what can I say? Throughout the video, I will try to give care tips for each one or for the ones that I've noticed have been a little more difficult to grow. Let's go ahead and get started. So a little disclaimer. I acknowledge that Sansevierias have been reclassified to Dracaenas. I acknowledge it, not saying that I accept it, but I'm acknowledging it. However, throughout this video, I'm still gonna call them Sansevierias. If you guys actually go to a computer and Google Sansevierias, they're now being called Dracaenas. That's fine, great, dandy. However, for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna call them Sansevierias because I think in most people's hearts, they're gonna remain Sansevierias. That's fine. Okay, so the first one that I want to show is my little baby Boncel or Boncel. I've heard people call them Boncel or Boncel, but this is my mini Boncel Sansevieria. The cutest little thing. I will say I did forget to water it for a short amount of time, and you can see where I lost a little bit. I had to nip a little bit off. But all in all, I've actually gotten quite a few little babies here. Just the cutest little guy. And since these are in smaller pots, you're gonna have to water them at a higher frequency. The next Sansevieria is my Samurai. This guy has not grown for me at all. However, I will say I've got it on the shelf back here, so it's pretty far away from my northwest facing windows. That's probably why it hasn't grown. However, it hasn't died, so that's always a win in my book. So again, my Samurai Sansevieria. Really cool plant. Especially if you have a small space to fill, these little guys are great options. Next on the list is my Sansevieria Night Owl. Now these can also be called bird's nest Sansevieria. They tend to have a very small cluster, more dwarf growth habit. I have lost a couple leaves on this plant. This one is on the back shelf with my Samurai where it's receiving minimal light. So I do forget about it from time to time. I also don't water it as often as I should. So again, this one is also called bird's nest Sansevieria. This is another variety of the Sansevieria Night Owl. I'm not 100% sure the exact name of this one because when I purchased it, it was just under assorted Sansevieria bird nest, but it is another variety of bird nest Sansevieria. Again, short dwarf growth habit, and they do put out new babies quite a bit. However, I haven't had any new babies in this one, again, because it is on the back shelf with minimal light. I think the face pot that it's in is super cute. Next up are two of my smaller potted whale fin Sansevierias. I do have one more, it's in a larger pot, but I wanted to show these since these are in smaller pots. If you guys have been following me for a little bit, you've probably watched both of these unboxings. This is the variegated whale fin that I purchased from Thailand. When it arrived, I was a little nervous because the roots look a little fried. However, I have checked the root ball of this guy and it is putting out a pretty good root system, so that's good. This is my other small whale fin. I got this one from Cambridge Bee, and I do have some new growth that's coming up. This guy right here, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm gonna try to bring it in a little bit, but it's right here. Next on my list is my Sansevieria Night Owl. Now this one is really cool. I actually posted a picture of it on Instagram when I got it. I really like this one because the new growth comes in almost a white, then it fades to a minty green with some yellow edging on the border. So I think it's really unique. It kind of reminds me of a cross between the Moonshine and the Laurentii. One, because of the new growth coming in so light, and then two, because of the yellowing on the edges like the Laurentii. And this is about the biggest that I believe it's going to get, so it's a great option for a small space. So again, Sansevieria Night Owl. Okay guys, we're gonna go straight into my Moonshine Sansevieria since I was just discussing the Night Owl. The Moonshine, very similar to the Night Owl, gets a little bit bigger, however, it does not have that yellow border along the leaves. The new growth does come in lighter, kind of like a milky green, and then fades to a minty green. So again, my Moonshine is doing exceptionally well. I do have most of my Sansevierias outside right now, trying to take advantage of the growing season by giving it a little bit more light. So the Moonshine is doing extremely well outside right now. Very happy. I need to repot it. It's probably pretty root bound at this point, so that might be another video that I do at a later date. So if you are trying to add some variance in variety to your Sanseveria collection, you got to get the Moonshine because of the contrast from the new growth to the old growth. It's really cool. All right, so next on my list is my small Sayuri. This is one that I got off of Facebook Marketplace, and it's actually giving me 2 new babies on the side, which is why the pot has kind of popped like it has. So I've got one coming up here, and then I have one coming up here. Now this one, I did have some fungus, so I had to kind of chop it a little bit, but I do have a larger Sayuri that I will show you later in the video. But I just wanted to show this one now because it is a smaller size. Okay guys, next is my whale fin. So this is one that I did do an unboxing on. It was damaged while en route. I got this from Hertz. I contacted them and they actually gave me a full refund. This is one that had a split in one of the bigger blades. Since then, I have a baby coming up, and there's actually a look today, and there's actually another one coming up on the same side. Now I do periodically go to most of my Sanseverias and kind of squeeze the sides of the pot to see if I can feel any more babies coming up, and that's how I knew this one had another one, because you can actually feel it right here. But anywho, I'm really excited to have my whale fin get bigger. I've seen some pretty awesome ones out there on Instagram, and I have a little bit of plant envy, but we do have this outside so we can get ample light for new growth. All right, next is my prehistoric Jurassic-like Sanseveria. Now this one kind of looks a little more Dracaena-ish, which now I understand why it was reclassified. Still gonna call it a Sanseveria though. This is the Sanseveria kirkii Coppertone. I also did an unboxing on this one. I love this plant. I noticed some it may actually look really ugly, but what I like about it is its growth habit. It kind of just spreads out instead of growing vertically like most of your Sanseverias. Additionally, it has some really cool coloring to it. So as you can see, it does have some white marbling. On the newer leaves, they come in green. The older ones kind of have a little bit of a copper look to it, which might be why they called it a Coppertone, because of the older blades kind of fading to a copper. Also on the edges, you will see that it has this kind of copper or brown margin on the edge. Very, very thin, not like the Laurentii where it's a wider border, but a very, very small copper border. Again, maybe one of the reasons why they call it a Coppertone. I have had no problems with this plant. It's been a super easy plant that I mostly forget about until it puts out a new baby. So if you guys are looking for something to add to your collection that is just different than what everyone else has, I would absolutely recommend the Sanseveria kirkii Coppertone. So this was the Sanseveria longiflora. In my most recent upload that I uploaded in March, you'll see that I did an unboxing from Bob Smoley's Garden World. Well, this was one of the ones that I unboxed, and as you can see, I got some new growth. Now the new growth is actually coming in much wider than what the old part that was sent in to me. So I'm really excited to see what this plant's gonna turn into, because if you watched that video, I was a little surprised as to what I actually received because it wasn't what I was expecting. This was what I was expecting. So I'm really excited to watch this one kind of open up and grow a little bit more and see what I can get from it. The next one is my Sansevieria Volkensii. Now this was the second plant that I received on the Bob Smoley's Garden World order that I also did an unboxing of. If you guys go back and watch that video, you will see that this guy that was only probably about here on the video has now grown quite a bit. Now I don't have any babies coming, or do I? I might have a baby coming up on this. I'll update you guys if I do. But like I told you, I squeeze the pots quite a bit to feel if there's anything, and I think I might have one coming up. I'll check that later. This is one of my favorite ones because of the uniqueness. It is a type of cylindrica, so it's really a neat growth habit. Upright, kind of fans open, and it's got these cylindrical 360 blades, which is different from what you usually think of when you think of a Sanseveria that has the normal blades. Again, I'm really excited to watch this one grow, as I've only had it since March, and this has already grown quite a bit. I'm kind of waiting to see if I get a little baby coming up in the middle or if I have any coming up on the side. I'll definitely keep you guys updated on that. All right guys, next up is one of my other cylindricas. If you remember in my last Sanseveria tour, this reminds me of Bart Simpson's hair, and it still does. So again guys, if you buy a cylindrica that looks like this, kind of consider it man-made. And what I mean by that is if I were to take out these big ones right here, all the big ones that make it look so cool, what they've actually done is chop these off of the normal growth of the cylindricas, you know, the ones that maybe fan like this. They've rooted them and then put them in this pot to kind of give it this cluster look. Now when the new growth comes in from these, you'll actually see that they come up like a normal cylindrica, so kind of fans out. So keep that in mind. So if you have a cylindrica, that's what's gonna happen with it right there. Here's another type of cylindrica. This is a starfish. I actually have two of these. This is the smaller of the two, but I have quite a few babies coming in. I still have not repotted this. I need to, I know, I'm a bad plant mom. All right guys, next is one of my Sanseverias that I still don't really know the name of. If you guys know what this guy is, it's not a whale fin, I can guarantee that, but it does have a wider blade or a wider leaf. I'm wondering if it's a Superba. I'm not certain. So if you guys know what kind of Sanseveria this is, I would really like to know. Again, the leaves are rather wide. It is not a whale fin, I'm certain of that, but it is something. So if you guys can reach out and let me know, I'd love to know. I've got this guy in my bedroom. It's doing really, really well. Up next are my two fernwood Mikados. So I actually have two. I have one that has not really done much for me. Well, there's actually two in one pot, but it hasn't really done much for me. So I went out probably 1 to 2 years ago and bought a bigger one. And what's really cool about this one is it's blooming for me right now. And I just noticed it a couple days ago. And I always think it's so neat when Sanseverias bloom because I think we just forget that they do bloom. Next up is probably one of my most favorite ones that I've gotten in the last month or so. This is the green mermaid. And in my experience, it is very prolific. Again, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4 babies since I've had it, and I can actually feel a couple more getting ready to come up. So green mermaid, if you can find it, I know they're pretty rare. If you can find it, grab it. Next up is my namesake, the Sansevieria Whitney. What kind of Whitney would I be if I did not have a Sansevieria Whitney? What's cool about this one is the dark green growth with the white grayish margin on the edge. It actually stays about this size, so a great option if you are short on space, which most plant people usually are. Next up is one of my Sansevieria trifasciatas. Now this is the green version, what I like to call the green version or the green Sanseveria. But what you can see with this one, it has a little variegation, so it has a little change to its pattern. You have a really deep green, and sometimes they can get very, very dark green. And then you have a nice little variegation with like a very light minty green on some of the blades. So this one is another one that can get pretty tall. I want to say they can get up to 3 feet tall. Mine's doing fairly well. I do have this one outside, so I've noticed the variegation or the markings will become a little more pronounced with the more sunlight that it gets. And my other Sansevieria trifasciata, Laurentii, is right here. And again, it's in a spot where I don't really want to move it right now, and it's pretty heavy, this one is. But this is another one that I've had for quite a while. I actually have 2 of these, so I'm not going to show both of them, but I do have 2 of the Sansevieria trifasciata Laurentii, so this is one of them. So here's one of my other favorite ones. This is one of my Jaboas, and I will tell you, the more light it gets, the wider the actual leaves are. So if you look at this one right here, it's pretty wide, but then when you look at some of the other ones, this one right here, it's in a dark corner. It doesn't get, even though it's with a window right here, it doesn't get as much light as I would like it to get, but it is giving me new growth. It's just a little more narrow leafed than I would like. So no big deal, but it's pretty easy. Again, this is my Sansevieria Jaboa. This is another really cool one to me. This is the other Sayuri that I told you that I had. You guys remember earlier in the video, I showed you the smaller one. This is another one in a 3-gallon. It's living its best life. It's very happy here. I love the basket that I have it in. What's cool about these is its coloration. I mean, if you look at it really close, it just looks like streaks of green and white and yellow mixed in. And then you'll have some of the kind of the grayer or bluish hues to the leaves. A lot of people will call this the denim Sanseveria, just because it does have kind of a blue look to it. Like if you look at this one right here, it kind of has like a bluish gray look to it, and then some of your new growth is coming in a little more green. So that's pretty cool. So again, Sansevieria Sayuri. Now I did tell you I had 2 starfish. This is the other one. Look at this baby. It's massive and I love it. I've actually been looking at it for a while at my family's garden center, and I finally was like, you know what? I have to have it because I am going to split it, and I can't wait to have this large one in a pot by itself because I think it's going to get even bigger. Maybe, fingers crossed. And then I've got quite a few little babies here. So pretty neat. I love this one. This is so cool to me just because of the growth pattern. Again, I do like my Sanseverias, the normal ones that go upright, but when they spread like this, it's super cool. So again, one of the cylindricas, this one is called a starfish. Okay guys, last but certainly not least is my big girl. I love her. She is my number 1 girl, I think. I'm sorry to all my other Sanseverias, but this is my Sanseveria Lancia. And if you guys remember when I got her, I was super pumped. She stands probably like 4 feet tall at her tallest blade up here. I like to call them blades, but they're leaves really. But she's awesome. And I've got her in this cute little like bohemian basket. It just kind of, I think it fits. I just think it fits her. she's really cool. But what's really cool about this, obviously this is a type of cylindrica, but the Lancia I have not been able to find anywhere else except when I saw it on the order form or availability when I was helping with doing some of the ordering. So yeah, pretty cool Sanseveria. Still in love with this one. One of my faves.